Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mob Fireside Chat. We always look forward to your comments, so please let us know your thoughts below after watching today's episode. If you're so inclined, you can respond to the question I pose at the end of the video. And hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next video. And please be sure to visit thenewyorkmafia.com, where you can step into a virtual library of hundreds of original organized crime stories you won't find anywhere else. Stories that will be sure to satisfy your mob cravings. Today, we're going to share a story about one of the most infamous mafiosi of all time, Carmine Galante. He was, without a doubt, one of the most powerful and feared of mafia bosses until he met his fate during a Bonanno power struggle. But is there more to Carmine Galante than just that fateful day in July 1979? Let's find out. Camillo Lillo Galante was born in 1910 in New York's East Harlem in the Little Italy district. He was also known as Carmine Galante and the Cigar. Galante's family hailed from the Brigada's ancestral homeland of Castellamare del Golfo, Sicily. He lived his early life in downtown Manhattan, later relocating to various addresses in the neighborhood. After getting married, Lillo and his wife moved to the Williamsburg section of Brooklyn, a Sicilian stronghold where many fellow Bonanno members resided. It was said that Galante had an extremely forceful and domineering personality. In fact, one prison psychiatrist labeled him a paranoid schizophrenic with pronounced homicidal tendencies. Lillo's arrest record begins in 1921 when he was only 11 years old. His arrests include juvenile delinquency, grand larceny, petty larceny, robbery, attempted robbery, suspicion of homicide, parole violation, operating an alcohol still, assault, and of course, federal narcotics law violations. Heroin smuggling and wholesale distribution are his most known criminal activities, but he also served as a strong-arm enforcer and torpedo and was involved in bootlegging, gambling, and extortion. Among his closest aides and assistants through the years were men Lillo either personally inducted into the Bonanno clan or soldiers very close to him who were later assigned to his personal crew. Among the more noteworthy of this original contingent were such names as Michael Mipey Pip Consolo, Gaetano Tony Lissi, Salvatore Little Sal Giglio, Michael Sabella, Anthony Tony Mira, Joseph Joe Bayonne Ziccarelli, and Galante's two cousins Angelo Little Mo Presenzano and Frank Presenzano. In later years, after his 1974 release from federal prison, when Lillo quickly became the de facto acting boss over the entire Brigada, he made sure to induct his nephew Jimmy Galante and two more relatives, the Sicilian-born Leonardo Nardo Coppola and Giuseppe Joe Turano, among other Castellamarese imports he brought into the fold. He also added a palace guard, so to speak, two young mafiosi born in Galante's ancestral home of Castellamare del Golfo that were assigned as his personal bodyguards and aides, Cesare the Tall Man Bonventre and Baldassare Baldo Amato. And he named Nicholas Nicky Glasses Marangelo as his new underboss, an old boyhood friend and crew soldier. These men, among many others not named, served as the backbone of his regime. Carmine traveled extensively to New Jersey, upstate New York, Miami, Montreal, and overseas to Sicily and France. Over the years, he held interests in the Rosina Costume Company of Brooklyn and the Latimer Shipping Company in Lower Manhattan. And after being paroled in 1974, Lillo became a part owner of the L&T Dry Cleaners on Elizabeth Street in Little Italy. Galante was first and foremost primarily a torpedo and top enforcer for the family. His reputation was such that he was thoroughly well known for his viciousness and had little compunction about committing homicides as ordered by the hierarchy. When Carlo Tresca, the popular anti-fascist editor, was shot squarely in the face on a Manhattan street in 1943, Carmine Galante was the prime suspect. Supposedly, Benito Mussolini himself had requested Tresca's murder, and that as a favor to the dictator, mob boss Vito Genovese ordered the hit, sending instructions from Italy to America to have it carried out. Lillo Galante and his lifelong sidekick Joseph Joe Beck DiPalermo personally handled this important contract. The murder garnered widespread attention, becoming front-page news across the world, and it would catapult Galante to the attention of the authorities as never before. If Lilo was first and foremost an enforcer, certainly running a close second was his affinity for heroin. His compunction for drug trafficking was his lifelong obsession and primary occupation. And he was good at it. So good, in fact, that he was considered among the most important and highly placed international heroin traffickers in the world. Even after having been convicted in a massive heroin conspiracy in 1959 with the likes of Vito, Genovese, and other top mafiosi, and having been sent to the penitentiary for 20 years, serving 12 before making parole, Lilo Galante was still able to immerse himself almost immediately into the thick of things, reestablishing various connections, drug pipelines, and routes into the United States. After being released in 1974, in just 1 year's time, Lilo Galante had catapulted himself to the top of the Bonanno family heap. He became the top banana, as it were, the recognized first among equals, and the boss of a massive Sicilian heroin pipeline now flooding the metropolitan area with the purest of white powder. It was a fact not lost on all of Cosa Nostra and federal authorities alike that Carmine Galante was making up for having lost over a decade in prison. He took back what was rightfully his and reestablished the Bonanno family's preeminence as one of the 5 powers that be in the underworld and the leader in international narcotics smuggling. He was a highly respected, but more importantly, a highly feared mafioso. And nobody but nobody dared get in his way, lest they and anyone associated with them be killed like sheep gone to slaughter. The other 4 New York family bosses remained silent for fear of starting a confrontation with him. And they knew the truth, of course, that he was completely correct in his actions and the mob chess moves he made in reaffirming his and his brigada's position in the underworld. The other families had raped and pilfered many Bonanno family holdings over the years because of their weakened position. Galante was just taking back what was rightfully due them. He elevated old friends and loyal disciples to positions of power within the family, and by sheer force of personality, he won most of the sit-downs over territory disputes or other conflicts that arose between families. As a famed mob investigator once observed in referring to other top mob bosses, the others are all copper. Lilo Galante is pure steel. It was a very astute observation. Galante was a force to be reckoned with, maybe the force to be reckoned with. His friends puffed out their chests with pride, and his enemies folded like accordions in his presence. Something had to give, and of course it did. Not everyone appreciated his heavy-handed operating style, including some in his own brigada, and certainly in some of the other brigadas around the city. The Gambinos especially felt his wrath. Gambino underboss Aniello Della Croce, who operated in the very same neighborhood as Lilo, was especially perturbed by him. No one to trifle with either, O'Neill was the other major power on the street. He had a reputation similar to Lilo as one of the toughest and most deadly adversaries if he was your enemy. Famed New York City Police Department racket specialist Ralph Salerno once commented that in his career he'd met dozens of deadly mafiosi, but only 2 stuck out in his mind as actually making him shake with fear and trepidation: Carmine Galante and Aniello Della Croce. He said that in peering into their eyes, each had a dead look, that you instinctively knew that they were born killers, and their eyes bore holes right through him. That's a big statement to make, especially for a man like him, and it gives us real insight into who and what we are discussing here. On a sweltering summer's day in 1979, Carmine Galante was driven to a nondescript, little-known Italian restaurant in the Bushwick section of Brooklyn for a luncheon with a few of his most trusted minions. After a pranzo of pasta, veal, fish, and verdure, all washed down with some nice homemade red wine, Lilo settled in for a smoke of one of his famous cigars and a nice cup of espresso. Within moments, the restaurant turned into a complete riot scene. Several men had crashed a luncheon party, racing into the back outside courtyard where Lilo and his associates were, blasting pistols and shotguns at the diners. Lilo was, of course, the killer's central target, sustaining massive 12-gauge shotgun-blasted pellets to his chest and face. One blast blew out an eye and tore a hole in his upper chest the size of a softball. His dining companions didn't fare much better. Leonardo Coppola, a recent immigrant from the Regatta's homeland of Castellamare del Golfo and a family capo, was shot numerous times in the back and head by pistol fire and shotgun shells. Giuseppe Turano, the restaurant's owner, Galante's cousin, and a suspected soldier himself, received multiple gunshot wounds. All were dead before they even hit the pavement. The killers escaped within seconds via a waiting car outside by the curb on Knickerbocker Avenue. The details of the assassination and the aftermath is well-worn mob history that we won't discuss here. But at the time of his murder, Carmine Lillo the Cigar Galante was just 69 years old. He had been paroled in 1974 and in a mere 5-year span had gone from federal prisoner to Bonanno Family boss and narcotics kingpin to a corpse. Such is the life of a mafioso. And he was no ordinary mafioso. Galante will go down in the annals of organized crime history as one of its most colorful characters. And that's the end of our story about Carmine Lillo Galante. At the end of the day, how would you rate Galante? First as a mafioso, later on serving as the overall boss for the Bonanno clan. And among all of the mafia figures out there, where does he rank in the Cosa Nostra's Hall of Fame? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, head on over to thenewyorkmafia.com and explore the hundreds of deep dive stories on everything organized crime, from the little known to the well known and everything in between. Stories you'll only find on the pages of button guys of the New York Mafia, including some of the mafiosi mentioned in this very video. You can take a free peek inside the Button Guys world in our free trial section located via a link on our homepage at thenewyorkmafia.com. But before you do that, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode of Mob Fireside Chat. And one more thing, if you have an idea for a story or a mafioso you would like to see on Mob Fireside Chat, drop your suggestion in the comments or email us at nymstaff@gmail.com. Thank you for watching. Until next time.